I'd like to invite you all in, but I really don't have anything to offer you guys except for some frozen pizza. Here's your look at the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990 movie, Ultimate April O'Neil. Now you can catch America's favorite green teens in their first live-action blockbuster film. After waiting in a puddle of radioactive waste, these radical reptiles are transformed into New York City's greatest crime-fighting quartet. Also following the city's unprecedented crime wave is intrepid Channel 3 reporter April O'Neil, who eventually finds herself face-to-face with the Turtles when Raphael rescues her from the Foot Clan ninjas. This highly detailed figure features an assortment of movie-accurate accessories and over 25 points of articulation. Before we get a closer look at Miss O'Neil, I'd like to first thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided this sample of Ultimate April O'Neil that we could have a look at in this review. Before we get down to looking at the figure and all the accessories she comes included with, let's first figure out how tall she stands. And for this, I'm going to bring in my ruler. The figure is just a little over 7 inches, maybe 7 1/8 of an inch, which translates to about an 18-inch tall figure of April O'Neil. Further, adding on to that, let's bring a couple of figures in for some size comparisons. Here she is next to Leonardo. Leonardo is going to go roughly to about her, I guess, about her eyes or so. We can also bring in the recently looked at Danny, who I still feel like maybe Danny's a little too small. He probably could have been a little bit higher than what he is. And here she is, of course, next to Casey Jones. Now, NECA Toys is also slated to release a Homestead version of April O'Neil and Casey Jones, pretty much utilizing the same figures that we're going to be looking at least head sculpt-wise, giving them a slightly different-looking body. So we are going to be seeing these figures again, but this is kind of what April looks like when you have her on display, at least, with some of the other NECA movie turtle figures. She gets a fair bit of accessories, although unfortunately with the retail release of this April O'Neil, she's not going to come included with her trademark yellow raincoat. NECA did release an exclusive version of April O'Neil that came included with her badge as well as that said yellow raincoat, but unfortunately the prices on that figure have skyrocketed online since. Unless NECA plans to re-release that figure, one workaround though, if you did want to get your April O'Neil with a yellow raincoat, is maybe if you happen to have this figure in your collection. Now, this is the NECA Coraline raincoat and boot version character, and we've looked at several Coraline figures on this channel. But you'll remember, this one has a trademark yellow raincoat. Seems almost about the right appropriate size for April O'Neil. It is, except for really the hood. To do this, first of all, we're going to take this off and remove it from Coraline. If you guys certainly did want to see the reviews of those Coraline figures, feel free to check those out. But what we're going to do is just take this off and remove it from the figure's arms. There we go, on both sides. We're going to just put the figure aside for the time being. And we've got this raincoat here. Not only is it the right color, but I think it's a decent material as well if you want to give her the raincoat. And then we're going to go ahead and take April O'Neil. Now, I'll tell you one thing with this figure, is her top torso seems to come off way too frequently. It's not certainly broken, it's just a case of popping it back in place. But we're going to do this with hopefully not losing the lower torso. Just going to bring the arms back. If it even helps at all, we're going to just have her for the time being. We're going to go ahead and slide her arms straight through the sleeves of the Coraline jacket. Now, I'm not certainly the first person that came up with this idea. Several people have came up with this idea as well, but it is certainly a workaround to giving April O'Neil the raincoat. If it helps as well, you can also take her hair, and sort of the hair helps to keep the raincoat in place. Just like that. And then just bring it around. Now, I may consider the idea of maybe modding this, customizing the raincoat, so at least it's like the right size. The sleeves are the right length. The only thing, of course, missing is her lower half. Let's pop that back into place. Simple ball joint. Yeah, that's a great workaround for April O'Neil. The only thing, again, unfortunately, is just that, that back hood is way too big for the figure. But short of me just going in there, maybe just removing it, or even trying my best to try to shrink the size down, which I guess I would have to kind of fold itself in on it. I think that's a pretty good workaround, though. Again, if you didn't get the chance to get that exclusive April O'Neil and you just so happen to have a Coraline laying around that you don't want to have the raincoat on, by all means, use it for April O'Neil instead. As for the rest of the things, April O'Neil comes included with a purse. Now the purse does open up. There's reasoning for that. You can open it up all the way, and you'll see it's hollow on the inside. This is just using softer plastic. The figure also comes included, like in the movie, with Raph's sai. You only get one of them. One is really all that you need. You just open up the purse, and you can slide the sai inside. Sounds almost a bit of a tongue twister. It's not going to go in completely. It's just not. It's not suited for it. I mean, if you're looking at, say, the length of it, you can see the end of the sai. It's way too long to actually fit lengthwise into the bag, but it's more than enough if you want to have it just play peekaboo and stick out from the top. Again, just fold that plastic away and just sort of slide the sai in the top. I'd like to see that she came included with that. The figure also comes included, getting a closer look at it there, Channel 3 microphone. Now the microphone doesn't attach to anything. It comes just with a loose wire that dangles off from the bottom of it. Now the wire is manipulable, where you can actually bend the wire is what I want to say. You can actually just kind of have it curled slightly. It doesn't have to be completely straight. I guess you could kind of wrap it around her arm as well. It does have some decent detailing done to it. You can see there's the Channel 3 logo all on all the four sides. And that can fit into her hand. Now she has really one designated hand, I guess technically two, to accommodate the microphone. She comes with this gripping hand, complete with the thumb ring. And then you can go ahead and just slide the microphone into her hand like that. And then from there, go ahead and pick the figure up. Now, as it stands right now, she has a pair of relaxed hands on both sides. Let's just remove one of them, the one that we need. Just take that off, replace it with the new hand. There we go. Not lose the torso in the process. Let's go ahead and put that back into place. And there you got April O'Neil with the microphone in her hand. And then from there, you can just decide for yourself what you want to do with the excess wire. Let's get her to stand for the time being. I guess seeing as we're certainly talking about standing, even though she seems to be doing a fine enough job on her own, NECA at least included a display stand. So if you have some difficulty with your April O'Neil standing, or if you want to have in a more gestured pose than her just standing there, she comes included with a smaller stand, a little thick, as you can see. It does have the peg on the bottom, or peg on the top, to fit the feet on the bottom on one of the sides of the figure's feet. Put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a stack, I'm assuming, of frozen still pizzas, maybe that she has pulled from the freezer. These could also be ones that she's already finished, and her place just is a pigsty. Several different pizzas to choose from. There's Josh's Pizza. Although it says Josh Pizzas, as opposed to Josh's Pizzas. And there's also Smellio's. Those sound like delicious pizzas. They're all stacked on top of one another, so you can't remove them. And it seems as well that they've applied stickers to all the sides of them, as well as also under the top. If I was to look at that, I would suspect that mushrooms, pepperoni, peppers as well, green peppers. But yeah, they're all just a stack of frozen pizzas. I think that's cool, the fact that they included that. Oh, I see what I did there. I think they're cool that they included that. Additional accessories. The figure comes included with a closed fist. And she also comes with another gripping hand for holding the mic if you want to certainly have the mic on this side of the figure's body. And then she also comes with a pointing hand. April demands answers. Good for asking those tough questions. And last and certainly not least, the figure also comes included with a swappable head sculpt, which almost started to roll away on me. It's pretty much the same head sculpt that we get now on the stock figure right now, other than the fact that this one does have the smile. I think really both of them bear a very strong resemblance to actress Judith Hoag, who has embraced the character of April O'Neil. Sadly, she wasn't actually in the second Ninja Turtle, and I guess maybe to her better luck, she wasn't in Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time. I really can't stand that movie. But at the very least, it would have been nice that she could have reprised her role of April in Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. But it seems like the head sculpts are very identical to one another, other than the fact that the expression on the face is slightly changed in the mouth. But I think both the head sculpts are good. I might still settle, honestly, on the idea of displaying the figure with this head sculpt, because I just like the more neutral expression on the face instead of the one with the smile. But both are certainly passable head sculpts. You can see the paint work on both both hairs, on both heads, I should say. You can see it has the lighter coloring of almost a lighter, dirty blonde color that they've added over top of a darker brown plastic. And to change out the head sculpts, by the way, super easy. Just hold on to the torso. Just wiggle the head off the post like that. And then go ahead and just replace it with the new head that you want to use. And again, one last look to show you guys the difference between the two. The faces, I will say, I really like the way that they've airbrushed the additional pink on the cheeks. Is it me as well? Or the cleft chin really seems really accented on both the figures. And being as well that they're using softer plastic on the hair, it certainly isn't going to be a problem when it comes to rotating the head around, which I guess we'll talk more about in the articulation in a second, but just to give you a quick tease of what that's going to look like. Hey, I succeeded. I turned that all the way around. Yeah, it's pretty good, actually. So one last look at the head sculpt before, of course, we resume with the rest of the figure. Now, I will tell you a couple of things on this figure, one of which, the ball joint. I've brought this around a couple of times already, and it seems like it's okay. Like, the figure is not going to start losing the top half of herself, but I know sometimes when you are picking the figure up, the lower half just wants to drop off. I don't know of a fix around that really, because it is sitting in the ball socket. It's just a case where it seems maybe not enough grip of the ball joint is actually sitting in that recessed socket enough to kind of keep the top torso in place. I mean, I guess if I hold it right now, it doesn't look like it's going to fall off, but I don't want to certainly jinx things by doing that. Now, this figure as well, provided by NECA, also has the notable double hinges. You see the top of the thigh, the bottom of the leg, and divided in the middle is two knees, or not two knees, well, they are two knees, but a joint on the top and a joint on the bottom. The second run of this figure has actually gotten rid of what we're seeing here, and instead have only given us a single hinge, or sort of that scooped knee that covers off the joint. Initially seeing it online, to be honest, I didn't think that the design of the double knee like this, the double joint, really worked well for the figure. Just going to bring around, actually, you know what, let's just take the mic out of her hand. I don't feel it needs to be there for the rest of this review. Yeah, so online we did see images of April O'Neil's surface where there was the double hinge. There was one on the top, there was one on the bottom that allowed the figure to bend a double knee. I don't really think necessarily April O'Neil needs to have, first of all, a double hinge in the knee anyways. You know, seeing it in hand, I would have preferred, honestly, just that single hinge that we are getting now with the second batch of April O'Neil's. I wouldn't necessarily say it's ugly. I mean, it stands out, but it doesn't stand out as much as I thought it would be. In fact, in hand like this, it doesn't look as... It certainly does stand out. I mean, you notice that it's there, but I don't think it's as... I don't want to say ugly, but I don't think it's as bad in hand as I thought it may have been. Still would like to be able to get, at some point, the second issue April O'Neil that has, again, done away with this in favor of just a single hinge joint. Because, again, I don't feel like a figure like this necessarily needs to have double hinges on her knees anyways. One thing as well, spinning the figure around to the back, they have used flesh colors for the hinges. I'm not really sure why they used flesh colored and not simply just use the same color of plastic as the rest of her leggings. Because, again, when you're seeing it from the back, every place that moves is going to be that flesh-colored skin. And, of course, it's going to be a different color than the off-green color that they used for the tights. Now, I could really play devil's advocate and say, really, if you're going to be looking at it from the front anyways, it's not going to be a big deal. You're not going to be displaying the figure. Unless you really do display your figure like this. I have to also be able to acknowledge that there are people out there that do like to put their figures in dioramas and different poses. And maybe, yeah, there's a good chance that you could rotate the figure and have her display talking to the turtles, that you would then see the lighter coloring of the skin on the joints on the back. So I have to acknowledge that. I know for myself, certainly when it comes to displaying the figure, I'm going to be displaying her front forward like this, facing forward, that I'm not going to see that the discoloration on the joint is there. It's not going to be as obvious for me, at least. She does have the skirting. Skirting actually looks really good on this, as well as the pattern that they've done to the shirt. She does have her little brooch there, as well as the vest. Again, we are going to be getting that Homestead April O'Neil, which, again, I don't think is going to have that different of a head than what we're getting right here, but it's going to have a very different costume. Spin it around so you can see it from the back. I like the way they kind of discolored the back of the vest, so it's a slightly darker brown than the brown that's on the front. But again, it's using a softer plastic. Let's talk a little bit about the figure's articulation. We've already sort of started things off looking at the head earlier. But the head rotates all the way around, whatever head, of course, you decide to display her with. It looks up, it looks down, and you can also move it back and forth. Again, we've already talked about the top torso. It's unfortunately, but again, like, if you look at the length, I'm just going to bring this out just a little bit so you can see it. If you look at the length of the post, I don't think enough of it actually reaches the top of her torso. If it was just a little bit longer, if this was just a little tad longer, I feel it would fit the socket on the inside of her torso just a little bit better. I mean, as it stands right now, she's not a ninja, so I'm not going to be putting her in any crazy action poses anyway. She's literally just going to be standing here. So I don't think necessarily it's a deal breaker, the fact that the joint, the torso, doesn't stay properly in place. I mean, again, when you are rotating, you're going to notice it's going to come free. But for me, at least, I'm going to be displaying the figure just looking like this. Moving her arms, sure, yeah. Moving her head, sure. But I don't think I'm going to be moving the torso very much at all. Then we get to the arms. Now, the arms move only at about 45, not quite a 90. A little half than that, dividing in two. The arms rotate also all the way around. She does have a double hinge on the elbow. And you can see there's the hinge joint right working in there. I don't mind that the elbows are double hinges. I don't think necessarily the knees needed to be double hinges. She does rotate, and she rotates where the cuff of her sleeve is rolled up, right there. The hands also rotate all the way around. You can hinge those back and forth. And then, let's just get that back in place while looking at her legs. Now, the legs are going to be a little more limited just by the nature of the way they've designed the skirt. You can move the legs out this way. You can also move them forward and back, but only just by a little bit. It swivels at the top of the thigh. A little harder to gain access to that. Has a double hinge on the knee. And then she does have the articulation in the foot, both this way and also this way as well. Good looking April O'Neil. Like, there are, you know, if I was to be fair, there are things about it that I wish could have been changed. Like the double hinges on the knees, for example. Again, like when I see this in person, it's not as bad. It's not as stand out as it maybe looked online. It really helps her as well that I think the coloring of her leg is darker. I think if she went with a lighter color, I think the double hinges on the knees would be a little bit more visible. She also does have an issue where the top of her torso doesn't really stay attached well enough to the lower half of her. But again, like those things I think are small. They have fixed the problem of April O'Neil with a version 2 that has now gotten rid of the double hinge in favor of just, I think, a single hinge concealed under that knee joint. Something that we've seen with other NECA releases. I'm still going to probably be going out of my way to get that version 2 April O'Neil just so I have that single hinge joint. But I think really April O'Neil done here, NECA, by NECA, is actually a nice looking figure. And of course, when you have her displayed with, say, the likes of Danny and have her displayed with, say, well, even just a regular Ninja Turtle. I only just brought in Leonardo for the purpose of the comparison of the sizes, but certainly when it comes to displaying her on the shelf, she is going to be joined with the rest of the turtles and maybe even Splinter as well. April O'Neil certainly is the character I thought really needed to be released in this line. I mean, all the other characters that we've gotten, I would even say she was more important than Casey Jones. We got Casey Jones first, and it certainly was worth the wait, because I think April O'Neil turned out really nice, especially when you have it displayed, her displayed, with the rest of the Ninja Turtle figures. Part of me kind of wishes that the retail release April O'Neil could have come included with her signature yellow raincoat. But then I think to myself, maybe like in the movie, it would be more fan service than anything else. I mean, in the movie, she only wears it for about a minute or so before she's interrupted by the Foot Clan, and she doesn't wear it for the rest of the movie. So even if they did package it with this figure, would I, at the end of the day, really display it with her? Probably not. If, though, you did want to get your April O'Neil with that yellow raincoat, there is always the option of getting the exclusive version that unfortunately came and went. It sold out fast. And unfortunately, like everything else, scalpers picked it up and now have jacked the prices up real high on places like eBay. If you wanted the more affordable routes, but you still wanted to have her displayed with that yellow raincoat, as I showed you in this review, if you happen to have that Coraline with the yellow raincoat, or if you could find one online for a dirt cheap price, just pick up that. The hood, yeah, isn't going to fit her frame, but the length of the sleeve as well as the length of the jacket fits her like a T. Just take, if anything, the hood right off. I've kind of dabbled the idea of doing it. I mean, I already have that Coraline that I'm not displaying anyways. Do I really want to take that raincoat and put it on April O'Neil that really only recreates about a minute or so of screen time? I don't know. What I do know, though, is that this is an uncanny likeness to actress Judith Hoag. Both the head sculpts are actually quite good on this figure, as well as they've given her scene-specific attire. Again, like, the problem with this figure is that she does have things that, at least to NECA's credit, they have fixed with later releases. This first wave April O'Neil does have the double hinges in her knees, which I know some fans weren't so super crazy about. NECA did at least listen to their fans, and they did re-release April O'Neil with only a single hinge, sort of where you've got that cup of the knee joint sitting further down, hiding the joint. So I think she only ended up having one joint as opposed to the two that we see here. You can also see on the back of the figure where paint has already chipped off the back where I've moved the knees. For me, it doesn't bother me because I'm only going to be displaying the figure looking face forward. For those that like to take figure photography, for example, maybe noticing more of that skin, visible skin on the back of the hinge joints as kind of being more standout. A little more uglier, I think, looking on the figure. The figure also does have some difficulty with the top of the torso properly attaching to the lower half. But again, for me, I'm only going to be displaying her like this, maybe either with microphone in hand or carrying around her purse with the size sticking out. So for me, putting her in any crazy poses isn't really going to happen. So the issues with both the visible paint chipped off the back and the legs, and as well the torso coming loose like that, neither of which is really going to be a problematic issue for me because of the way I'm going to be displaying April O'Neil. Now, I can't help but wonder, we did actually get ourselves the Judith Hoag likeness of April O'Neil from TMNT 1. Will we, down the road, be getting Paige Turco's April O'Neil, who was in TMNT Secret of the Ooze, and unfortunately didn't learn, I guess the lessons came back from TMNT 3, which was the worst of the three films. I wish Judith Hoag could have come back for Secret of the Ooze, but I can certainly see she dodged the bullet by not coming back for TMNT 3. TMNT 3, Turtles in Time. Terrible, terrible movie. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at NECA Toys that provided this sample of the Judith Hoag April O'Neil from TMNT 1, the 1990 movie. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And whether you picked this figure up for yourself, did you get the version 1 April O'Neil with the double hinges in the knees, or did you get the revised version 2 that has the corrected knees? Let me know down below also in the comments section. Hey now, are you new here? I'm not just actually saying that to the person that just walked in. No, sir, it wasn't actually you. Although now it's kind of become awkward because I'm watching you and you're seeing them looking over at you. It's actually not to you, sir, but if you are new here, you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and if you be so kind, please come back to this channel because we will be looking at more NECA reviews in the not so distant future. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.